evening and hi, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk with Ellasin. And on this show, we talk about real issues that directly impact the people of God and the community that surrounds it. If you're joining us on Facebook, hit the like button and share it out. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and smash that button and subscribe so that you can stay up to date. And then also view our all of our latest videos and shows. Well, today we have a great show. We have been doing Real Talk with Ellasin Military Edition. And if you missed the last few weeks, we discussed from a spouse perspective, raising children in the military. And today we are here with a diverse group of guests as we discuss from a service member's perspective. So joining us today, we have Ebony Seal. Hey, Ebony. How are you?
I'm blessed and highly favored.
Good. I know that's right. So Ebony, she is a retired senior chief who has served her country for 24 years on active duty. And currently she is her own entrepreneur. She is an entrepreneur of Bling Crush, and she's also the founder and director of the Hampton Roads 757 Freedom Fest. And Ebony, you know, I'm gonna give you time to talk about that 757 Freedom Fest at the end of the show, right?
Hey, let's do it.
All right. And next we have Ernest Mciver. Ernest.
Hey.
Hey, what's going on, E?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. He has over 17 years and is currently serving as a chief petty officer in the U.S. Navy. And he is happily married to a prior military woman. Right?
Yes,
she was prior military. They have 4 children, right? They have 4 children together and they are doing well. And he's still serving our country. E, thank you so much for all that you're still doing.
Yes, ma'am. No problem.
Thank you. And then we have Shalita Arnold. Hey, Shalita. How are you? Okay, so we can't hear Shalita right now, but Shalita is a retired CT.
There we go. Hi, y'all.
Hey, Shalita. She is also a retired chief. She was a CTMC. CTMC, what's that, Shalita?
Cryptologic Technician Maintenance.
Okay. All right. So she served in the United States Navy for 21 years, right? And some of those years you actually served with your husband, dual military, who's also now retired. Right? Yeah. And they also have 2 beautiful children. Yay, Munchie and Grayson. They have 2 beautiful children. And then next we have Preston Young. He is a retired sergeant first class. Preston, hey.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
How are you? Yes, he is a retired
I'm doing
first
fantastic.
class of the United States Army.
Oh.
Yeah. And he served in the United States Army for 21 years. And he too is an entrepreneur. Amen. That's what I'm talking about. Get out and don't serve nobody else.
Amen.
And last but not least, we have my honey, Eric Allen. And he's a warrant officer in the U.S. Navy. And to date, he has 24 years behind him. And honey, he's still in, okay? He's still serving strong.
Hey, how's everybody going?
Hey, guys. Welcome, 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 everyone. Again, I'm so glad that each and every one of you guys are here as we have been discussing Real Talk with Ellasin, the military edition. But we're not gonna hold back anything. We just candid. We just keeping it real here. And I'm gonna start off with the very first question. How do or did, because some of you guys are retired, right? Hey, Sylvia. So how did or how do you guys cope with separation? And E, since you're in, I want to go ahead and ask you, how do you cope with separation?
So unfortunately, I was able to just be able to communicate during Facebook, Messenger.
Wait,
and
y'all have
whenever the
Facebook? Y'all have Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Facebook, and regular old snail mail. You know, that'll take forever to get. but I was able to just, deal with it. My wife Sean, she's a real good support for that. Any other time I deployed, it was kind of rough for me to do. But I had a good support system on the ship with me, backing me up for that.
Okay. Okay. Ebony, I'm coming to you. How did you cope?
Well, like I said, I was dual military, so I had to. What worked for me was is that I compartmentalized a lot of things. You can't hear me. Can you hear me
Yeah, she
now?
got to speak up. We can't hear her.
Yeah, you just got to speak up a little
Can
bit.
you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what worked for me was I compartmentalized a lot. A lot of my sailors, that's just something that we learned to do because when you're out there on a mission, you really can't. It will affect the mission if you're worried about your husband, your boyfriend, your boo, your children, your dog. So we learned how to kind of lock that up and put it away. That's how I learned.
Mm. Okay. She said, lock it up and put it away.
Yeah.
Lock it up. I felt like that was interesting. So Shalita, you left, and I remember you leaving, and you had small ones.
Yep. When I first got on board, Tamara was only 5 months old. And when I came back, she was turning 3.
Oh my God.
So I agree with Ebony. You do learn to compartmentalize it, but at the same time, it takes a lot of support on the other end. My big thing I asked for was pictures. I don't have to talk to y'all every day, but send me pictures. Keep me abreast of what's going on, because when you have a child that small, the smallest things can just go past you if you don't get to
Mhm.
document it. You know what I mean? And I didn't get that chance.
Mm.
So, and then there were times when we just couldn't talk. So if I couldn't talk to you, at least if I had something more concrete, like a picture, I was okay.
Right. Okay.
The thing is,
Wow. So I wanna go back onto something Ebony said. She said we just had to lock it up. Like that kind of touched me because
Mm.
being home, being the one back, being the one here, it's like when you guys lock your feelings up, how do you perceive that affects home?
well,
And I'm gonna go to you, Preston. Like when you had to deploy, lock your feelings up because you've been retired for a while, but you served during wartime, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right. And then I went over to Afghanistan and I
Yeah.
went over to Iraq. And when she's talking about locking things up, I think that she's talking about when you're in a war zone, you had to stay alive and you had to stay alert. So you had to literally put yourself in a predicament in that environment there and focus on that environment. And then when you had a little time that you can, because you never have free time in a war zone, it's never free time. But when you do have the time, then you start focusing on your family. You can make phone calls, you can write, you know. A lot of times when we had got hit, they did lockdown. So that means it's totally blacked out. You don't have no means of communication. So again, when she's talking about locking things out, you had to remain focused so that you can remain alive and come home safely to your family.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful. Now, Eric, I know you went right after 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
and communication was almost null and void during that whole deployment. And Preston, he was on the ground. He's boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You were on a ship, but you still was in war zone.
Yeah, that's right. That was like my third deployment, I think, in 9/11, because of the situation that was going on. We went straight over and began to start bombing. The thing is, to go along with what Ebony said and Preston said, in the idea of locking things up is everybody has to detach to some degree, your emotions, and detach to some degree from how you feel about family back home in order to do your job and to stay alive. I worked on the flight deck, so it was extremely dangerous. People get hurt, get killed just working up there. Being in the war zone, yeah, we didn't see bullets flying at us, but we worked 18, 19 hours a day launching jets on the
Mm.
flight deck. And so our biggest danger was getting killed by the jets coming in, or accidents that could have happened on the flight deck. And so if you didn't, I think every branch has the same term when they say keep your head on a swivel. You always have to be aware of your surroundings. And if you're preoccupied with things that are going on back home, you know, that's hard to do. And as a young father, look, they didn't teach us how to deal with being gone from home. You know, they taught us, they told me, hey, your wife and your kids didn't come in your sea bag. That's what I was told. So basically what they said was they don't exist until you go back home, or at least until you get off of work. Well, that's hard when you're 21, 22, trying to figure out how to, you know, give some attention to your family and then try not to kill yourself or get killed. You know, so some people deal with it differently. For me, I did it. It was very negative the way I dealt with it. And it was harmful to my relationships at home because I just completely and emotionally learned to detach from everything back home.
Yeah. So thank you for all y'all feedback. That's like, it's really enlightening because us back home, when I say us, I mean, I'm a spouse. So I'm saying us back home. So Ebony, I'm listening to everybody and it just sounds like you guys, not just on deployments, but even the ship life, the military life can be stressful.
Period.
Can be very stressful. And we can't really understand that, you know, as an outsider looking in. We as spouses, we just want more of your time. But tell us a little bit about the just stress, period.
Well,
I'm sorry, you got a flashback?
I know, right? Just like, oh Lord, PTSD, Lord, for real. It's like, I'm trying to relate it. It's like moving within an ecosystem, you know. So you have your family life. You have, you know, if you're a young sailor or a soldier, you know, you're 18, 19, 20, you have your friends, and you can kind of deal with that, kind of, sort of. If anything you're missing, it's home, mom, dad, sisters, brothers. But the people that have families or significant others or children, it's, you have to learn how to live in another ecosystem, because being on board, you know, even though you're not boots on the ground, plenty of people then fell off from ships. Plenty of people then fell into something and got chopped up, you know, just because they weren't paying attention. Plenty of people then dropped down a stairwell because they wasn't paying attention. They were thinking about, Chief gonna yell at me today, you know, or I didn't do this right, or I didn't do that right. So you have to learn how to, it's kind of like going to a new school, right? So you go to a new school and you got all these people, you don't know anyone, you know, so you got to start over and regenerate confidence and acquaintances and friends till you can get back to the safety of who you really stem from.
Right. So it sounds like it was very stressful, and we'll never know. You know, the family day cruise don't do nothing compared to what y'all do at all. Right, it just don't do nothing. I was ready to go after a couple of hours. I'm like, we still here. It's time to go. It's time to go. So let me ask you this, Preston. Have you ever felt as if you had to choose between your career and your family?
Oh my God.
Of course, but I had to learn to shut off when I was at work. I had to focus on work. And when I came home, I try not to bring my issues from work at home, but it's real hard.
Yeah.
And then again, when you're talking about the stress that you have to deal with in the military, you always have to deal with soldiers as well. Now they have problems. I mean, we all have problems, especially when you have a family. But then you have to deal with other people's problems as well. So as you climb up the ladder, because even though I was an E7, I was always in a first sergeant position. So as you climb up the ladder, you start dealing with other people's issues as well. And now this becomes stressful because now you're going to have to resolve some of their issues. And now you have to still have to deal with your family life. But I've learned to be able to separate. If you could follow me, you had to tune out what was going on at home when you're at work. And when you're at work, you had to separate that work when you came home. And sometimes it's hard to do. It's a hard transition.
Right. Shalita, I thought you was about to take us to church. Go on. What you got, girl? What you got?
Actually, the time I had to choose was me taking my last shipboard tour. Like I said, I had just had my daughter, and I called for orders thinking, okay, I'm going to stay on shore duty. And when I asked them, they told me I had I think the Truman and two small boys. I was going to be the ship's maintenance person. And I'm like, well, haha, that's cute. Let's try it again. No, you have to do that. And I remember people telling me, oh, don't worry. She's a baby. She won't remember. This is great for your career. And it's just so wonderful. And it's okay. And this is where the whole compartmentalizing thing, I had a hard time at first. And fellas, I'm about to say something. I hope I don't offend you, but I know as you have wives, I was breastfeeding. I had to cut my daughter off cold turkey. I had to just literally cut her off.
Wow.
And go on board that ship.
Wow.
And you kind of just learn to just, that's what it goes back to the whole compartmentalizing thing.
Yeah.
And how Preston was saying, as you get higher in the ranks, you have your problems, and then you have everybody else's problems.
My goodness.
And then you have to your problems kind of go here sometimes, because you got to put your sailor up here, because your sailor affects not just you. It affects the other 300, 400, or several thousand people.
That's right. That's right.
On that vessel.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, for me, it between having church on board and just having pictures, something that I could just put my hands on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the only thing that saved me. Phone calls were gold. Video was, I would have gave my everything for a video.
Right. Oh my goodness. And see, we as spouses, we don't understand that. So if you're just tuning in, you're watching Real Talk with Ellasin, the Military Edition, and we're talking to service members as we hear their perspective. And Ernest, I'm going to start off with you, and Eric, and then I'm coming to you. But so this has been an ongoing argument. And I don't even know if y'all really want to touch this question, but
let's go.
Who has it worse, the person deploying or the person staying? Now, that's been an ongoing argument. And I'm coming to you. He's like, my wife's watching, I don't want to touch it.
I would say that the person that stayed behind has the most difficult time, especially if you have kids. That other support system that could possibly help you out. You go one way, I go one way, and then we meet somewhere in the middle. That support system is gone. So I would get stories through emails and pictures and stuff while I was gone, and she would tell me how the day went. Who did what they did, and how she's upset about it. And I was away. I couldn't really help her. So that's why I would say the person that stays behind has a difficult, because we that went away, that's our job. Either we do our job, or food's not going to get put on the table, or the light's going to get turned off. So I just look at it like that. I got a job to do, and you got a job to do too. And then when I get back, we'll do that job together.
Okay. All right. What you got, Eric?
Who's got it the worst? I think it depends on.
So I guess not the worst, but we feel like, so the argument that I've been hearing is, okay, well, we home, but at least you get to be home and you get to do this. Well, we on a ship, we got to stay on a ship in the water. But we home, but we missing you. Now we got to do everything we do plus you too, and now.
Yeah, but you know what? So when especially, it depends on how long you've been married. Like, we started off, me and you, we came in the military together, right? You know what I mean? We've been married 2 weeks after I got out of boot camp. So I think as you grow in the role that you're in, like, because I had been in the military my whole career, if for some reason I had to be the one to stay home after 15 years, that would be harder for me. And so I would say the person who stays home, would have it, the easiest, I would be thinking, because the only thing I ever know has been at sea. And so the way that I deal with being at sea, you wouldn't deal with that. And so if we had to swap roles, we would both say the other person had it the hardest. But what I do know is that when you're at underway or you're on deployment or you're away, you're so laser focused on the mission. You're so laser focused on your job, and all you have to worry about is the mission. You don't have to worry about feeding people. You don't, because they provide food for you. You don't have to worry about getting kids ready for bed because they go to sleep and they have to be at work at a certain time. You have to focus on the mission, and you can't really worry about other things. There's a lot of things that goes into focusing on the mission, but some of the stuff that you do with at home, worrying about, hey, the car broke down, who's going to get it fixed? Your world resides where you're at, and so that's the only thing you have to worry about. So I would probably say that while we say we got it pretty bad in the sense of danger as far as loss of life or something like that, I would think that the people we're leaving behind, because it's so many of them that we're leaving behind, those 3 or 4 individuals are missing you just as much as you are missing those 3 or 4 individuals. And so you leave 3 or 4 individuals that are waiting on you to come back home. And so maybe they got it worse than we do. That's hard to say.
So I know the ladies want to jump in there. And look, can I throw this little plug in there? Being left behind as an ombudsman, I would always, as a wife, I was saying, well, we have it harder, but as an ombudsman dealing with, and I think I was, thousands, 6,000 on the Roosevelt, and having to contact someone to let them know that, their child had passed away, or their parent or their loved one had passed away. I can only imagine getting this news out in the middle where the sky touched the water. Right. So it's just, I can only imagine it's difficult, to hear different things like that. Ebony, go ahead before you jump through this screen.
Mr. Warren, sir, Senior Chief reporting.
I hear
this
you.
What I got for you. And for
okay, shipmate, what you got?
My brother Chief here. Okay. To me, it is not the person that is left behind. And let me tell you why. Because when you're home, you are in a rhythm already. You're in a rhythm. This is what we do day to day, whether it's get the kids up, feed them, let them go to school, come home, do homework, go outside and play. You're in a rhythm. When you're on a boat or in the field, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Just like Ellasin said, let me tell you this. One of my chiefs, his daughter was being cyberbullied, right? This is the only situation to this day that I still cannot really. She was being cyberbullied from her schoolmates at school. So while he was outside cutting grass, getting ready for Father's Day, whatever they do, she went up, she unlocked the gun in his room, and she killed herself in her bedroom, right?
Jesus.
When you are home, you have resources that are all around here: Norfolk, Virginia Beach, friends, family, ombudsman. But when you're on that boat or in the field, the only people you have is the people on that boat and that water to figure out, okay, how am I going to deal with this? How do I reach this person? Anything, the dynamics on when it's easy to say that on a boat, things just go left, right, left. But I've been on ships. Things ain't go left, right, left. I mean, for Christ's sake, I went in the Beirut.
Right.
So I mean, things don't go left, right, left.
Okay.
So I don't think the rhythm is different on the ship.
Yeah,
right.
I don't either. But
and because
it's gonna be an ongoing argument.
No.
It's not the same as being home. To me,
I can't hear.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, you just low. You got some good stuff. I can't hear.
I'm saying for me, let me make sure this volume is up. I think it's up. Yeah, I got a new Mac. So for me, being out in the water is inconsistent. Inconsistent breeds uncertainty. Uncertainty breeds stress. Being at home, yeah, you got those same things too, but at least you still have a battle rhythm. You
right.
Still have a battle rhythm. Whereas
so I want Eric to jump in here because we did almost 9 deployments. So
what was your rate, Senior?
IT.
Oh, okay.
So look, both of them was
yeah, so
let's flip that. RM. And when we're talking about this mail and stuff, there was a time when you had to come get your email on a disc.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember writing letters before the email.
And numbering them.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like I'm not discounting what Ebony's saying. I think what I'm trying to say is it's relative to the individual. So for me, I'm talking about for me. Let's talk about for me. It's easier for me to be at sea because the coping habits that I developed, howbeit they were probably not the best, right? And they were probably unhealthy coping behaviors, but it made it easier for me to be at sea. And what I mean by that is, it sounds cold and it sounds harsh. My family did not exist while I was gone because I'm the type of person that if I focus on my family, I will get hurt, right? It was easier for me to just not contact them. I can remember not wanting to email them, but doing so because I knew they needed to hear from me. I know it sounds harsh, but I'm going to tell you where that came from. That came from when my wife was pregnant with my baby girl and she went into contractions at 4 months old and I had to go on deployment, right? They left me behind, told me I was going to be good to stay behind. And then the very next day after the ship was gone, they said, get your seat bag and get back on the plane. You're going out to sea. And I said, I can't. Like my wife, there's nobody here to take care of my wife and my kids. She's on bed rest, mandatory bed rest. They told me, get on the plane, Petty Officer Allen, and get to the ship. So when I got to the terminal, my wife took me to the terminal. I can remember giving her a hug. And as I turned to walk through the gate to begin walking to the airplane, she said, babe. And I stopped, but I didn't turn around. And then I just started walking because I knew if I turned around, I would not have got on that plane. So I had to pretend my wife and my pregnant wife and my kids were not there because I did not have an option whether I could stay or leave. I had to go, and the only way, and I'm telling you, it's unhealthy. The only way that I could deal with it was to just put her in the back of my mind and keep it pushing. That's why I say it depends on the individual. And so while my coping mechanism was unhealthy, and I do not recommend it for everybody, I recommend everybody to try to find a way to stay connected, because when you've been in the military for 24 years and then you come home and you try to reconnect, it becomes awkward. It feels weird, right? Yeah. And so that's the purpose behind, a book that I'm writing to help us deal with how we are in the military and the way we cope with things.
Yeah. Right. That was good. You almost made me start crying. That's not nice. Shalita and Preston, I'm coming to you. Have you ever felt misunderstood by your family or your spouse? Because like you said, y'all are gone all the time. Your coping mechanisms are different. We don't understand. Have you guys ever felt just misunderstood? Shalita?
Well, for me, you got to think I was doing military. So
yeah, but you still had mom and all of them.
Not when I'm on that ship, I don't. So I felt it's crazy because I felt better on the ship than I did at home. I felt like I was playing double dutch. I was playing catch up. I was just trying to, I couldn't get in that rhythm that Ebony was talking about. I just had to jump on in because I knew being on a small boy, I was going to have to jump on out. So when I got on the ship, that was actually a rhythm for me. Okay, I knew Reveille was at 0600. I knew I was eating chow. I had to go see the XO. Then I had chow. Then I had this meat. I knew what my day was. But at home, I didn't. And it was, even though I had a spouse that understood what was going on, it was still hard because he had my baby girl by himself. Now, flip it. I'm the spouse now that's at the house. I think, and it does get awkward again, where you have to, it's the same thing. It was harder for him out to sea than it was when he was at home, because out to sea, he couldn't put his hands on us. There were times where he couldn't talk to us.
Right.
But we kept it moving. And that's when I finally got my rhythm, because I was at home.
Right.
You kind of see what I'm saying? So you just kind of learn to it's almost like playing a game of double dutch.
Right.
And again, that compartmentalizing comes in again, but it depends on your situation.
Yeah.
I had more issues with family than my spouse.
Right. Wow.
Because it's a
Preston,
big,
that makes
oh,
good. Sorry, Shalita, go ahead.
but because it's a big difference when your husband or your wife is keeping your kids. Now let's throw in other family members in the mix.
Oh, Preston's good on that one.
Because your husband
yeah.
is standing watch and can't be with the baby when he's on shift duty. So then he has to send the baby down somewhere else to watch the child. So you got all these people in play.
Yeah.
And I will say this last thing, and I'm gonna let you go, Preston. The worst thing I ever had to deal with was my daughter was down with her grandparents in Florida who are not technically savvy. And I'll never forget, I just said, can you just get on the computer and just let me see my child? I don't know what to do. I'm like, I'm in Bahrain. I can't come back. Just hit the button. And he couldn't hit the button. That's when family comes into play. Or you hearing little silly stuff that you can't.
Yeah.
So, Preston,
Leaving your kids with family. Well, a lot of times, and that's what I was going to hone on with children, because you rear your children one way, and then family members might have their own environment. They might have their own morals, and then they might have their own values. And so it's very difficult at times when you leave your children with family, and then when you get back, there's no structure. The structure has dissipated, and you're wondering what has happened.
Yeah.
So again, when it was harder for me with the children than anything else, because when you come home, you can deal with the spouse, but then the kids, if they was running amok, disciplinary, like me and my brother-in-law, we're very disciplinary. We're not going to allow this. So it becomes where we become the enemy. We are mean, and then it feels like we don't even have control in our home. But then we go to our job and we have total control.
Yes.
So it becomes chaotic when you come home. You have no type of orderly discipline at the house, but then you come in and you have nothing but control at the job. So it becomes very difficult.
That's good. This
is where prayer got to come in.
Yeah, that's really good. So listen, and I'm not going to tell y'all who said this, but listen to what I'm about to say. You mean to tell me I got 150 sailors that listen to me and do what I do the minute I say jump, and y'all can't get your room clean?
No, sir.
No, sir. That sound like you.
No, sir. I already know who said that.
How does it feel to have sailors under you, and then you got to come home because you got to adjust to home life, and the kids are like, oh, that's just dad. No, that's just dad. That's just mom.
Oh my goodness.
Well, you talking to me, babe?
I said E. I was waiting for E to answer. Look, he don't want to answer. I'll transfer the book.
I mean, I ain't never had that many. I've never had that many sailors to shoot. It might have been me though, I definitely can remember probably saying something along those lines to my kids. Hey, get yourself together. What's going on? But you got to catch yourself. You got to stop yourself before you go too far. When you're trying to address your family, because yeah. But I got an idea. But I ain't gonna say no names though.
Oh my goodness, y'all are a mess. So Eric, come on now, help us out here. Help us out.
Yeah, so I think part of the problem is that we get into this role, especially when we're leaders, we're or whether we're E5s, E6s, chiefs,
Right.
sergeants, upper leadership, where we have a certain level of respect that comes with your rank, right? And so you're used to operating in that vein. And then you come home and you realize that your children and your family, they don't respect you the same way that your sailors or your soldiers do.
Right.
And so it creates a confusion in your mind. But really the problem is we should not expect our family to respect us the same way our troops do. But
Right.
but we do, right? Because it's hard to flip that switch. All we know is that if I say do something, that means it is to be carried out swiftly,
It needs to
and
happen
according to how I
right
told
now.
you to do it. No questions
Right.
asked. But that's not what you get in a family. There's a
No.
different dynamic, and so I think that sometimes we put too much pressure on our family to respect us in a way that they should not have to, because we don't know how to take the uniform off when we come home.
Right, right, right. That was that was a good one. We don't know how to take the uniform off when we come home. And that is true. Lashandra, she said he's still working on us. He's still working on all of us,
All of
right?
us.
All of us.
Yeah.
So
Amen.
let me let
Amen.
me let me ask you this. And Preston, you guys came in straight from high school, right?
Yes.
So you guys came in
Right.
straight from high school. Preston, you're retired, and Ebony, you're retired.
Mhm.
Did you guys have a hard time reacclimating into civilian life? And I'm gonna go ahead and start with you first, Preston, and then Ebony.
Well, adjusting was a little bit difficult, but they allowed us to have different programs that we could acclimate ourselves with. They taught us how to write resumes. Um, they try to give us and direct us to job fairs where we can go to job fairs and try to find employment. But it wasn't equivalent to what you was making. Does that make sense?
Mm,
Mhm.
So
mhm.
you go from half of your salary, you have a full salary now, and you're at half. So
Mm.
now,
Wow.
how are you going to really budget your money? So it became very difficult. And again, like you said, I was still young. I went in 16, going on 17. My mother signed me in.
Wow.
Yeah.
So look at it. I was only 38 years old when I retired. So I was still young. And still, you know how the military think. As long as you have credit cards, you had money. That's how I considered it.
That
So I was built up.
We had somebody's money.
right.
Seriously. So I had to go get a job and quickly, you know? And yeah. So it's now I realized that you have to plan, and I didn't have a plan. They didn't
Right.
tell you about planning to get out, you know. All you did was, like we always said, we accomplished the mission, but we really didn't think about the future once we leave the military. So
Yeah.
I'm here to say you need to plan now. If you were at
Right.
14 or 13 years and you only have 7 or 8 years left, you need to start saying, okay, I need to get a house. I need to start
Yeah.
saving. You get with your spouse and say, what are we going to do? Because I'm going to go half.
Yeah.
When you retire, you're going to go half, especially if you
Wow.
don't go over 25 or 35 years,
Right.
then you get 75% or something like that. So yeah, it was an adjustment immediately. I
Yeah.
had to find employment.
Yeah.
I had a lot of bills and I had a lot of doubt.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
because all I
doubt.
knew was the
Yes.
military.
Yes. That's right. Yeah. So it's basically almost like the military kind of raised you. Yeah, that's like, and you do have
Right.
doubt because a couple of months of classes, do that really teach you,
Yeah.
and prepare you, Ebony?
Words.
Um, well, like Preston said, they don't really prepare you. I mean, giving you some classes, they called it TAP when I was in 2, 3 times. It's not gonna do it. But what I did is at year 14, 15. right when they're trying to give you that bonus money for you to pick high three or get the regular retirement, right around there, I started really thinking about what I was gonna do. You know, did I want to go to work? Did I want to stay home? Did I want to, you know, what was gonna be in the special sauce? You know, so I decided at year 15 that when I did get out, whenever it was, that I wasn't gonna work for nobody else, and I meant it to my soul.
I know that's right.
Okay, and so the biggest thing with your question is that for me, it's not so much the money, it is the, I want to say I tempo, because you know us in the Navy, I tempo be, we be hitting it, we be, you know, for me, that's my biggest hurdle still. 6 years later, still, because I get up in the morning, you know, I get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'm doing homework till, you know, God knows when. Then I'm, you know, busting out orders for the business. Then I'm building a nonprofit, and then I'm back in schoolwork every day, all day, every day.
Right.
And I
Right.
don't, you know, I get yelled at a lot, i.e., my parents, my husband, my therapist, my kid, you know, because it's really hard for me to learn to just not do nothing.
Right.
Don't do nothing, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't. I'm still working on it, but
Yes. She says she's still working on it. So I'm hearing that we got to prepare when you're about roughly about what 13 to 15 years in, it's time to start preparing. If not before that. Right? Because if I'm not military, but if I'm not mistaken, it changed now. The retirement is what you put in it.
what?
If I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken. Right? So Eric, what am I
yeah.
right?
Well, the retirement is yes. They're on the TSP. Whatever they put in is what they get out. You know, they're not on anybody comes in now. It's not like all of us that were grandfathered in, where they get it at 20. They get a percentage, or they get what they put in their TSP. You know, so and I think part of the problem with learning how to adjust when you get out is all of us that are in the military, we learn from our peers that are in the military with us. So nobody in the military has ever been retired from the military, so they can't tell you what to do when you get out. We always hear stories from the old heads after they're already retired. Oh, you need to make sure your medical records in order, make sure this is good to go. But you don't have nobody actually side by side with you, walking you through it or training you. Like that's how we all learned.
It
You
should
know,
be a
so
team
a
sport.
couple weeks at the end doesn't. It's hard for you to grasp, you know, in 2 weeks how to transition after you've been in the military for 20 something years.
Right. That's powerful. So Ebony, yes, they did change that. So let me ask you guys this, right? You deploy a lot. Um, I mean, we talk deployment, and y'all help me out. We got deployments, we
Mhm.
have underways, we
Duty.
have duty days, right? So you have all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time that you're gone in a duty day, you're gone the whole work day, then that night, and then the whole work day again,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you guys are gone a lot. It's almost as if the people you serve with become family, because
Yes.
they
Yes.
do.
Yes.
You come real close with
Mhm.
them. They become family. You know more. Sometimes you might even know more about them than what's going on at home because you're not
Mm-hmm.
there. So, with that being said, has anyone ever felt like they kind of like didn't fit in or just disconnected from their family? Eric, you shaking that big old head. What you got?
I mean, yeah, I can remember there was times at one point I was on I think it was almost 11 years straight sea duty. I think maybe it was 10. But at any
Wow.
rate, I can remember my kids saying, "Dad's just visiting." You know, I became the stranger at the house, and it got to the point where when I did come home finally, it felt so awkward. I would get anxiety. I didn't have duty no more. This is like the first time I'd been on shore duty in 15 years, and I went to shore duty, and I would sit on the couch and just start having shakes and realize didn't understand what it was. I did not feel comfortable in my own home. You know, I didn't feel like I belonged there. I was always expecting to go to duty every 5, 6, actually 6 to 8 days. Uh, and those of you on the small boys, maybe it's every 4 days you had duty. Oh,
Three,
3 days or
three.
sub. If you're on a sub, maybe port and starboard. It just
Mm.
depends. But that's the thing the Navy has to deal with is them duty days. So I was gone so much. I spent over half. I've looked at it. It's been more than half of my birthdays, anniversaries, holidays have been spent away from my family. You know, so I felt more comfortable with the troops than I did at home because I didn't fit at home. And it was so awkward, you know, being home and my daughter walking past me, not saying anything, going right to my wife because she was used to her being there. Right. I can remember my son when he was 3, he said, I hate you because you leave me. Like, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
Like, how do you tell a 3-year-old, hey man, I'll be back in 2 weeks? He can't comprehend what that means. So all he knows is my dad leaves all the time and I hate you because you leave me. You know, that's hard for a young father to deal with. You know, so I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah. Shalita, you ever felt that disconnect like that?
Sometimes, but it's because our schedules are like this. There were times we would just do this. Hey, I'm gonna pack your seat bag because I'm unpacking your seat bag, but I'm packing mine.
Mm.
Wow.
We did a lot of that.
Yeah.
Or it would just be like you had to watch. Okay, you got to watch. All right. Her doctor's appointment's on this day. She go to CDC on this over. She go to CC over here. She do this. It's like we doing turnover.
Wow, with the kids.
With the kids. And then when you finally get home, that's why I was talking about that whole rhythm, trying to get in that rhythm. We didn't have a rhythm for a while. We had watch. Your watch is at home and my watch is on the ship.
Wow. Wow. Preston. Wow.
Well,
you ever felt the disconnect?
That's truth, right?
yes, especially when you overseas in a war zone, you have to develop a family because you had to rely on your battle buddy to stay alive. So your battle buddy really became like family to you, you know, because you had to constantly be with someone, especially when you had to go anywhere. And so but then coming home make it more difficult as well because then you feel a disconnect coming home because you know you're leaving people behind, you know, and so it's that unselfishness that you feel, but then you have to deal with your family as well. So of course you develop camaraderie, you develop a partnership, and then you realize that when you come home, you have to do the same thing. It's just like a relationship, you know, especially when you're in a war zone. And I was not only in Iraq, I was in Afghanistan. So you definitely had to rely on somebody, you know.
So it's almost as if, you know, it sounds like, and you guys help me out, Ebony. I'm coming to you, and then Ernest, and I know you've been married a little over 7 years, so maybe you can relate to this too. But it's almost like being on a ship like is like having a separate life almost.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier.
Ebony, speak up a little bit louder.
Let me move this a little closer to me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like I was saying earlier, it's like going into a whole new environment, a whole new atmosphere. So it is like it's not like you're not the same person anymore. It's just that you have to be someone slightly different than you are at home when you're on the boat. You know, you can't be, you know, hey, this. Especially when you didn't hit E7, E89. That's just not going to happen. It's just not.
Yeah.
And then when you get home, you're like, wait, let me get back to me. You know what? You know what do I like to do? You know, I had to remember. Oh, I like to roller skate. Let me buy me some roller skates. You know, oh, I like to do this. Let me go get this. You know,
Yeah.
you completely forget. You don't really forget who you are because you do have liberty points. You know, you do have some liberty, but it's not like being at home.
Right. So I'm glad you brought that up because you coming in straight from high school, being in the military, you know, father, wife. Did you did you develop a who I am, or is it the military pretty much raised me, so this is who I am? Because I hear that a lot. People, when they get out, they be like, man, I don't even know who I am. What do I like?
So I would say the military raised me, right? So I joined when I was 19 or 18 years old, and that's all I've known since 2004. Like the job I had before was I was a cook at Sonic, and that's the only other job I've had before I joined the Navy. So I would say the Navy raised me. So whatever the Navy wants, that's what I want. So that's how I look at it. I really don't know anything else but this military life. I got 17 years in, from seaman apprentice to quartermaster chief. That's all I know. So whatever the Navy wants, that's what I'm focused on.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So Eric, with you having so many years in, and like you said, you and I, we were together. You disappeared on me. Next thing I know, you signed up for the Navy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's that? What's the Navy?
Right.
You went to boot camp, came back 2 weeks later, left again, went on a world tour, all the way to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Right? How do you so the question is this: how do you remain connected when it almost seems like you're growing separately from your spouse?
Wow. We talked about that a little bit earlier, and I remember I said that I had developed unhealthy coping skills, where I just completely detached. And what that made me was cold to my wife's and my children's emotional needs. So I didn't know how to meet those needs. I didn't know how to meet my wife's emotional needs, the things that she needed from me, because I didn't know how to provide compassion. I didn't know how to provide sympathy sometimes, because I have a harsh rate. I have a very harsh working environment. And so our job, we tend to talk at our people instead of talking to our people.
Mm.
And so what made it hard for me is that was realizing that when I went on deployment, the hardest thing for me, now this is back in the 90s, and some of y'all was in before me, but back then there was no internet, right? And so it was like, while you were on deployment, somebody hit pause on your life, and you was in a bubble, and you was isolated from everything else. Then when you came back, you're like, man, when that music come out, where did that car come from? When did that movie come out? Because you was isolated from everything. And then what you realize is that while everybody else was living, your life was on pause for like 8 months.
Wow.
But you realized that you was growing. You didn't realize that, but you was growing and becoming something different because of how you deal with that. So while you was growing, while my wife was growing, I was growing too. But we wasn't growing together. We was growing separately, because she was living her life and how she could while I was away, and I was living my life a certain way, trying to survive while I was gone. Then when we came back together, sometimes it felt pretty good. But
two bulls in the glass shop.
But for the most part, it became a battle, because I've been living a certain way for 8 months, and I come back and try to implement the way that I've been living, and it doesn't work with a wife and 3 kids who's been waiting for you to get back. They already been running things, and you try to come back and inject the way you want things to go. Well, brother, you ain't been here. That ain't how it's gonna go. What do you mean that ain't how it's gonna go? That's what I said. Well, you ain't running nothing right now. You trying to figure out how things are going. You just getting back. So yes, it was a problem, and trying to stay connected. I would say, and I'm gonna be true. I'm true and real with y'all, right? I did not learn how to connect with my wife until about 17 years after I was in the Navy, right? And so it got to the point where I was so disconnected from my wife. There was so much turmoil. Our relationship was on the rocks, that it got to the point where I didn't know how to connect. So what I learned is that we say communication is the key. Well, a lot of us don't know how to communicate.
That's right.
We all say communication, but nobody knows how to do it. So I had to learn how to do it, and I'm still learning how to do it, but I'm getting better, right? And so one thing I would say is you got to find a way to connect with your spouse on a level of something that you both like, and try to find a common ground that you can talk about when you relate, when you have conversations back and forth, instead of your emails every day being same vanilla email. Hey, babe, how's it going? Ain't nothing changed. How's the kids? Talk to you later. You know, yeah, he's laughing because that's the email we send all the time. Because that email, our life doesn't change what we're doing. It's hard to talk about something different because there's nothing around you that stimulates your imagination. It's the same thing every day. So I'm depending on what you send me to create dialogue because I have nothing.
Right.
Other than the food is nasty.
Right.
For the 20th day in a row.
Great D food. He said, how is it for the service member if the spouse you're coming home is cold towards you? So how do you cope with reintegrating yourself while having have to warm your spouse up to being home as well? Ooh. So how do you reacclimate into the house? And this is why I was going to come to you. And I'm glad Sean put that question up because I was going to go, Shalita, they done came home and trying to change our schedule.
Man. We doing double dutch. You done come in and got tangled in the rope.
We've been running this.
Just go sit down. Look, go sit down.
We've been running this, and now y'all want to come home, been gone, and just because
and with all this, Black, and it's funny. Don't laugh at me. I was like, look, senior. This is not CTMC. This is Shalita D.
Yes.
Keep all that.
Yes.
On USS Whoop-de-Doo.
Yes. So and that's I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, Shalita, because you know what, and to reacclimate back in the house when we're so busy, and Preston, you was your sergeant, when you were so busy being sergeant over here. And I'm coming to y'all. This is our last question. How do we transition into, dad, brother, wife? How do we transition back into the atmosphere, and the family members have been missing you and they can't wait till you to get home, but then you're so disconnected because you've been gone?
Eric, he brought up something that's really good, communication, because a lot of times, there's two types of communication
too now.
Right, but there's two types of communication: is a receiver and a sender. Yep. Okay, and a lot of times we could receive something, and the sender might be really good telling you, but we're not receiving it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So a lot of times you have to sit back, and then you have to actually listen to what the person or your wife or your spouse is trying to tell you instead of reacting, because we do bring our rank home. Come on, let's be honest. We are in a leadership position. We tell, like how the Satirian in the Bible says, I can tell 100 soldiers to go somewhere, and they go, and we so familiar with doing that. When we come home, we want you to move.
Yeah.
So it becomes hard. So a lot of times you have to really sit back. You got to observe too, because if you don't observe, because they on a daily routine, and I wanted to leave that. They on a daily routine. You're coming into their routine. Yeah. We don't think about it like that. They already established a daily routine, and we already established ours I was on the ground. You might be on a ship. So again, we're coming back into the home where it's already established. So their routine and their habits is already established. So it was up to me to observe first. Okay. To literally observe what was going on in the house on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Preach.
That's how you really get acclimated back into. That's how you really get acclimated back into the house.
Right.
Right. Don't go in trying to make changes, being demanding, saying, do you understand? This is where we're gonna have, the deuces are gonna come up. Then you're gonna have to understand your spouse has been there while you've been gone. Yeah. So this is where you gotta ask, well, baby, what's been going on since I left? Here we go with the communication again. Fill me in on what what the kids like to do, what I need to do. That's what a partner is.
That's right.
You gotta
That's
help
right.
me. Tell me what I
Yes.
need to do. To
Yes.
open up these doors for the kids. Because
Yes.
you got the key to unlock these doors. I don't. And so that's where you gotta admit to yourself that I gotta relearn their routine. I gotta relearn my family. You really gotta relearn your family.
Yes,
you do.
Relearn your family. Pick up off of that. Relearn your family.
I mean, yep, Preston is right. You can't just come back in there like, this is how I want it. This is how it's going to be. You got to watch and observe.
You hear that, Eric?
you got
listening.
You got to watch and observe. Pick up on their routine. Don't try to make your routine their routine. Conform to their routine. Life will be so much better if you do it that way. Now, I may or may not have done it that way. I won't say, but I learned.
Yeah,
so,
it's a process.
Yeah, right. Get with it or get going or something like that. But
basically.
Show us you missed us. So listen, Ebony, Shalita, I'm coming to you, right? So show us you missed us. So you coming home, right? And you just want to sit down, take them boots off.
Yes, Lord.
Get out of that uniform. Scrub till you can't scrub no more. And all we want to do is just hug and be all up under you. Right? So help me out, ladies. Ebony, you first. What you got? Help me out. Get reacclimated in. We just want some of you. But you just want some of let me give
for me, when I came home, my first priority after I checked on my child was to do an ebony adjustment, which that consisted of the boots and all of that stuff, going to the laundry and lighting some candles and just trying to get a woosah moment, to just come back to earth, for me, because before you can be good to anybody else, you got to make sure your mind is in sync with your heart, is in sync with your soul. All this is in sync with each other, and coming off them ships, you out of sync. I don't care what nobody say. When you come off them ships and you coming back home, you out of sync. You got to sync yourself back up before you can even think about syncing with, your spouse or of course you want to be booed up, but for me, I just felt like it was a plus to get me right, so I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about duty I'm gonna have in 2 days. I'm not thinking about any of that. I'm just thinking about getting myself straight, then seeing how I can slide into my child's life, because I was a single parent all the years in the Navy. I didn't get married till my child was grown. Okay. So when I came back, got my child from my mom or, other family members, and it was just about easing on in there. But before I eased in there, I had to make sure I was okay.
Right. Okay. All right. So she was a single mom, but Shalita, you had to come in to the kids, family. What did you have to do? Because I hear Ebony, and she was saying, so if I could be truthful, Ebony, I hear you and I hear you and I hear you and I totally agree with you. But as a spouse who haven't seen you in 8 months, you selfish, girl. Go ahead, Shalita. What you got?
Well, from seeing it from both sides,
right.
I mean, it's kind of weird. I understand that I want to come home, but I'm not gonna lie. When I first got off that ship, folks laughed at me and made fun of me. I didn't care who you was, unless you was Christ. I want my child. Don't talk to me. Be lying to my child. So I just wanted to just hold my people.
Yeah.
Once I got to hold my people, leave me alone. Then I could come back, and then that allows me to kind of let it go, because that was my time to say, all right, I'm cutting off, even if it's just for a couple of days before I have to go back on the ship. I am no longer CTMC. I am back to being Shalita D. and I have to go on. Now here I'm gonna bring up something. This is where this affects both the spouses and us. The expectation to have marital relations when you first come home.
Yes.
That's a hard line to toe.
Yeah.
And that's a big expectation. But that's where the communication has to come in beforehand. So nobody's feelings is gonna get hurt
Right.
when you walk in the door.
Yeah.
Because some of us, our love languages is touching and affection and time, and the other person is service. And they come in and they trying to do all this, and you back to this, and then folks is mad at you. You didn't miss, and they mistake that as you didn't miss me. No, baby, I missed you. This all we doing. How about we just step back for a minute?
Yes.
Let's just take the family time, and then we'll do like Leah. Then we go rock the boat. But right now, I just got off the ship. So I just give me a minute. So it's a mixture of both. And like I said, I see it from both sides. You know, you want to come in, you want to get out your clothes, you don't want to be bothered. But then the other side is I just need to touch you. Okay, I touched you, you there. We good? All right, now leave me alone.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with you because it's all about the quality time. Eric, I'm gonna let you go ahead and finish up on, on that, and then I want everybody, I'm gonna come back through with a nugget that y'all can leave, everybody, all of our service members that have families, that have spouses or single parents. What can you leave with them? But Eric, first I want to talk about that reacclimating back into the family, the quality time and the intimacy, not the sex, but the intimacy of reconnecting. Because that, everybody with the sex, okay, yeah, but the intimacy, the emotional connection.
Yeah, like I said, for me, because it was so hard for me to deal with being gone and being a person that just detaches. I had to, for lack of better words, I had to retrain myself, right? So you guys that are in those computer rates, I had to be reprogrammed, and so that requires you to be intentional, right? You have to be intentional with your actions because it's foreign. It becomes foreign at first. So now you have to take into account somebody else's feelings, and you're not really used to doing that. And so with that, I had to be more sympathetic. I had to be more conscious of how I talk because I tend to be rather sharp and direct, especially when I first come from being out to sea. I had to be more conscious with being more compassionate, with when the kids were dealing with something or when my wife is dealing with something, when I'm underway, I just want to tell you okay, well, that's the issue. I see. Okay, well, let's move on because we still got something else to do. We don't have time to just wait and deal with what you're dealing with. Let's address it and move on. But that isn't how it works in the family. So I would say you have to be intentional when you come back to reconnect. Learn how to identify where you're falling short. I think that's key. You have to, if you already know you have a problem with communication, or you have a problem showing and sharing your emotions, identify when you're feeling like you're trying to pull away or you're feeling like you're trying to detach because you're going to do what's normal. And so I would catch myself trying to detach because that's what I normally do. I'm used to being by myself. So now that I'm in a house full of people, it starts to feel weird sometimes. And I would go and seclude myself off in the backyard or in a room by myself to get some normalcy. Right. When I begin to feel that, I would just say identify that feeling and try to push past it and stay in the moment.
Yeah, that's good. You guys, I feel like y'all all answered that question. And I want to say this, and Ebony, as a spouse, I said that, you were selfish because I feel as a spouse, sometimes we want you guys so bad that we don't comprehend that you're going to need that time to decompress. And that time to decompress is very important because everybody is readjusting. That's why they tell us spouses, don't let the sailor drive as soon as they come home because they got the sea legs, they wobbling. It's a whole bunch of, adjusting that's going home. And as a spouse, after a certain amount of, I think 2 or 3 deployments, I realized that he's going to need that time, she's going to need that time to even reacclimate with themselves of who they are out here back in the world, and they're not in the deserts or on the ships or under the sea in submarines or anything like that. So I think, it's important for us as spouses to understand that you need that time to decompress. Okay, so nuggets. What do we got for a nugget, Ebony? What's your nugget that you want to leave with everyone?
I guess my nugget would be stay the course. No one does anything to fail at it. Stay the course. Understand beforehand that there will be distractions along the way that will kind of shift you. But just because you shift doesn't mean you have to fall off course. So whatever it is you want to do, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's E6, E7, E8, whatever it is, if you can dream it, prepare for it, be intentful with your stuff, go get it. Stay the course.
Stay the course. Stay the course. Nugget.
I'd say spend as much time with your family as you can while you are on land or while you're back at home, because you never know when Uncle Sam's gonna call your name and be like, hey, it's time to go. So get involved with your kids' life, find their interest, be around your spouse, go hang out with them. Like that quality time, you're gonna miss it. So I believe that you should establish that bond, so when you do come back, you can kind of pick up right where you left off at. If it was no bond there to begin with, you're going to come back into a dark hole trying to find yourself, trying to find your way out. Mm-hmm. So quality time is very important, especially if you got kids.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
All right. Thank you, E. Preston, nugget.
One of the nuggets I always think about is that everyone have daily habits. So you have to remember that your daily habits is not going to always be the same when you come home. But then remember, your daily habits is going to establish a routine that you'll have. So that routine will always become like a lifestyle. So with that, you're going to have to adjust yourself to other people's lifestyles, to your spouse's lifestyle. Even when you get out the military, you're going to have to adapt to a different type of lifestyle, because it's going to be a different type of world that you're going to be existing in. And as long as you establish some good habits, you develop a routine, and you establish a good lifestyle, you're going to be successful.
Okay, that's a good nugget. Eric, what you got?
Well, I would say that from the time we come into boot camp, our identity is being shaped by the Navy to become a soldier, sailor, a Marine, what have you. But we are all individuals uniquely made outside of that. So what I would say is, do not forget who you are. Don't lose sight of who you actually are, because when you leave the military, you have to go back to being, maybe not go back to being somebody else, but you have to begin to operate in who you really are. And so what I'm trying to say is that don't let your rank, your position, don't let the chief's mess, don't let the wardroom, don't let being a certain rank dictate who you are, but you dictate what it means to be a chief. You dictate what it means to be a warrant. You dictate what it means to be a petty officer. And you define what it means to be a good person in the Navy. Don't let the Navy, the Army, the Marines tell you the type of person you have to be.
That's good. Amen. Shalita.
The nuggets I have go for both sides. Don't take it personal. It's a lot of things that are going to happen that and you're not going to understand, well, why don't they talk to me, or why this didn't happen this way, or why we feel this way, or why did he have to leave or she have to leave again. It's not always a flaw in your character. You just sometimes just have to go with it and just don't take it personal and just step in, which leads segue to support on both sides of it. You have, as a spouse, you have to be supportive of your service member, whether it be through communications, whether it just be through small things, but you are that lifeline. You are that beacon of light that they're going to look to when it's time, when they're in their place that they can't raise out of. So you need to be that support. But from the service member side, you also need to be supportive of your spouse. Remember, they're fighting battles that you can't see. So you need to be supportive as well. So those are my two major nuggets. Don't take it personal and always be supportive.
Yeah. Amen. I think you guys left some powerful nuggets. And I pray that, it reaches to, our service members as well as our spouses, because, in the field of work counseling that I'm in, I deal with a lot of the military, and unfortunately there's a lot of problems in our military, with our military family, whether it's spouse or the children. So I just want to say that I appreciate each and every one of you, your nugget, your candidness, your service that you have, the ones that are still serving. We thank you for all of that. You've watching Real Talk with Ellison, and we've been talking about a service member's perspective. And to just piggyback off of communication, we talked about that quite a bit. And we said that, communication, it could be bad communication. But the most important thing that you need to learn how to do is to truly communicate and create a safe place for your partner to be able to communicate their true feelings with you. If your feelings are not, if they don't feel safe, they're not going to communicate how they really feel. And then you have to practice what is called active listening. What is active listening? And I'm going to say this, ladies, most of us, shut your mouth and listen. Listen to what they have to say. Listen to hear. And that's what we should all do. We should all listen to what our spouses have to say. Listen to the feelings behind their anger. Listen to the feelings behind the tears. It's a reason why this behavior is happening. So communication is key, the proper communication, specific communication. And I want to thank all of you guys, Ebony, Shalitha, Preston, Eric. I want to thank y'all all for being here. Again, you're watching Real Talk. Oh, Ebony, we supposed to give you a few minutes about 757. Go ahead, tell us real quickly. You feel like it?
You know what? I'm gonna get you. But I'm real proud, y'all. Look at my flyer. This is the Freedom Fest. So if you're in the VA area, it is Hampton Roads' first annual Juneteenth festival, and it is free and open to the public. Check out the website at www.757freedomfest.org. We're going to kick off with a parade. So, if you're an organization that, you want to march in the parade and show your cultural heritage, show some pride, get at me.
All right. 757 Freedom Fest. This is Juneteenth. Thank you, Ebony. So again, thank you guys. I appreciate all you guys. I even appreciate your families, and everything else. And Preston, you always busy. So I appreciate you for being here as well. So thank you so much. I love all you guys. Thank you guys for tuning into Real Talk with Ellison. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Night.
Night.